guys, welcome to another math video. For this video, I'll be talking about systems of equations with 3 variables. Okay, so let's get started here. Okay, so basically that's all we're going to do. We won't be doing any graphing in this. Graphing in 3 variables will be covered in a different video. Okay, so the general rule in systems of equations is you want the same amount of equations as you do variables. So if your equation has 4 variables, then you should have a total of 4 equations. So in this case, we're doing equations with 3 variables, so we should have 3 equations. Okay, so this is what we'll do. So at the beginning, with all 3 equations, you want to select the variable to cancel. Then you'll select 2 equations. Any 2, doesn't really matter, and you'll cancel out the variable that you chose. So if you have to multiply by a factor to get to the lowest common multiple, then you'll have to do that. Okay, then once you've simplified those 2 equations into one smaller equation, you want to select the last equation you didn't choose before, and one of the first 2 equations you did choose, and do the same thing. You want to cancel out that same variable from those 2 equations. Okay, so after you've condensed those equations into 2 smaller equations, you want to choose another variable to cancel. And then basically from there, it's going to be like working with systems of equations with 2 variables. And after that, you just solve for your other variables. Okay, so I know this sounds confusing, but once we do the example, it'll make a lot more sense. So let's jump right into one. Okay, so we're going to solve this system of equations here. So I got my 3 equations. So what I'll do is I'm going to decide to cancel out y, because as you can see, the equations have opposite signs for a couple of them. Right, so I'm going to do the first 2 equations. And I don't have to multiply by multiple, because they already have, I don't have to multiply by a factor because they already have least common multiple, and they're already opposite signs. So I can go ahead and combine these 2 equations. Okay, so that's done. So now what I'll do next is I'll use the third equation that I didn't pick before, which was this one here, and I'll use one of the first 2 that I did already choose. So because this one has a minus here with the y, which is the variable I chose to cancel, I'll choose this one since it's already got the opposite sign. Okay, so I'll do the same thing. I'll add them together. Okay, so that step is done. Now next step is to choose another variable to cancel using these 2 new equations. So I'll cancel out z since they already got opposite signs and the same coefficients. I can just go ahead and combine right away and solve for my variable. Okay, so that's 1 variable down. So I actually ran out of space here, so I'm going to flip to the next slide. So I got my 3 equations here, and I already got my x variable solved. So now I'll use one of the previous equations. I'll use one of these 2 to solve for z, since I already have x. Okay, so I chose to use this one here. So I substitute in x, solve for z. Here's my z. And now that I got 2 variables, I can choose one of these to solve for my last one. So I chose this equation here since it's got positive y. I don't have to worry about signs at the end. Okay, so I substitute in my x and my z variables. I'm going to simplify, combine like terms, isolate my variable, and solve for y. Alright, so that's pretty much it. So now I'm going to put this as an ordered triple. It's not an ordered pair because I got 3 numbers. And mathematicians would like to go in alphabetical order, so I'm going to put this in the order x, y, z. Alright, and that's pretty much it. So that's what we did. So just remember, anytime you have systems of equations, you should have the same amount of equations as you do variables. So if you got 5 variables, you should have 5 equations. Alright? Okay, so if you need to go back, just go ahead and rewind the video to wherever you need to be and just rewatch that part. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in and see you next time.